Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, I thought I would take the time to talk to Rob Moore, CEO of Sentinels. I thought I would ask quite a few questions that some of the community had regarding the crowdfund that Sentinels are planning to do with Start Engine. I know there's been quite a lot of questions about, what is Start Engine, why are they doing a crowdfund, etc., etc. So I thought I would kind of take the time to get some of these questions, bring it to Rob, and we'll kind of go through it so we can give a little bit more insight for the community and give the community a bit more of an opportunity to understand, why organizations are going down this route and give a little bit more insight. So, first of all, thank you very much, Rob, for taking the time to have this kind of sit down with me. I thought we would start with the reasoning for a crowdfund, and obviously a lot of organizations have done it in the past, but I wanted to ask you, why are Sentinels doing a crowdfund?
Thank you, George. I wanted the opportunity to just kind of address some of the issues and concerns that came up once we announced this, because it's new to a lot of people. And so wanted to explain why we chose a crowdfund. There's a lot of different options team have for raising capital. You could do an IPO, you raise money through private equity, and you could raise money through a crowdfund. And so as we looked at our company, we felt like we certainly aren't big enough. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the long-term track record to really support what's required for an IPO. So that's just something that we didn't view as a viable option currently. And then the other option that a lot of organizations have taken is raising money through private equity. There's some big positives to private equity. You can raise the capital usually with either one person, one organization. The transaction's private, so you don't have to disclose a lot of information about your business. But that usually comes with a certain amount of controls that once one entity, one person puts in that much capital, they start to get some control about the way you operate your business. And so for us and where we are in our growth and the way we've been running our business, we just felt like we have a passionate group of fans right now as we look at our business and how we're running it. We really are prioritizing building our brand by trying to field championship caliber teams in all the games we compete in, trying to sign only really high profile content creators, and really trying to grow our brand that we hope then over the long term will generate substantial revenue and hopefully lead to profitability. But we're at the beginning of this journey. And so the people who we've seen are the most passionate about our company are our fans. So we felt like Start Engine is a platform that gives you the ability where they provide a lot of that administrative support you need to be able to interact with the public. And so we decided to use Start Engine. They've been one of the most successful crowdfunding platforms. And we decided that was a great way to let the fans now have opportunity for exclusive and unique merchandise, unique opportunities, and even the potential that they would own a piece of Sentinels.
Yeah, so I think to touch on that last point there as well regarding kind of owning a piece of Sentinels, I think this is a lot of where people are kind of talking like, oh, this is really cool. I could kind of become involved in the organization in another way. But I think as well, a lot of people might make comparisons to, obviously we spoke a little bit about like public IPOs and stocks and things like that. All these kinds of discussions come into it. But I think the question I have for you is, what is it that like people are actually buying when you invest in Sentinels with Start Engine?
Perfect. Yeah. The key is, in the past, the ability to invest in early stage companies was really limited to high net worth individuals, people with access to startups, private equity. And so what Start Engine has done is increase the ability for a lot of other people to get an opportunity to own a piece of, early stage companies. And so people will actually own an interest in Sentinels. All of the specifics of what people will own and the terms of that will be are available on the Start Engine website. And so we'll have the link here as part of this where everybody could go. And you then, when you go to the website, you can find out exactly what you're going to own and the terms of that, and all of the financial information will be available to people.
Gotcha.
The other piece of what people will see there are exactly what perks and incentives are available. And so as fans make a decision about what level of risk they're willing to take, that they also can see what the positives are in terms of no matter what happens with the investment, that there'll be some unique pieces of merchandise, unique experiences that they'll always have no matter what happens with the long-term future of the investment.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely very important because I think a lot of people are curious about like where their money would go and how it would be used. I saw, especially on the website, for example, that, you plan to, reimburse it by getting these kind of championship rosters, right?
I think, sorry to interrupt you, because like, here's a perfect example, right? Like right now in the esports world, right, there is a lot going on in terms of people really trying to figure out their business models.
Yeah.
And we've seen now a lot of stories of organizations cutting back on the number of teams, organizations reducing the amount of money they want to invest in player salaries. So, as we're looking at our business and the way we're trying to approach it, that we want to make sure that we continue to have the most, and certainly in Valorant, right? Because Valorant has been the cornerstone of our brand.
Yeah.
Right. And so making sure that we continue to have a team that fans are excited to watch and support. And so this gives fans the direct ability to be part of that.
Yeah. No, I think it seems really good. I think it allows people to kind of get access to the team. And, I think it allows them to be able to kind of understand the organization a little bit more, kind of get a little bit more involved, especially with some of the perks that we spoke about, right? But I think if we kind of talk about the context of esports as a whole right now, there's been a lot of changes, there's been a lot of development, especially, but I think there's definitely been quite a few external factors kind of out of our control, right? I think you would agree with that, and I think that would you agree that because esports is very new, would you say that companies are kind of still exploring these strategies to kind of generate a positive cash flow? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, when you look at the development of esports, right, there was so much growth, a lot of private equity capital came in, and the real focus for organizations was growing as fast as possible to get as big as possible. And that was really the focus until probably a year and a half ago. And then two big events took place in the overall economy. One is interest rates had a huge spike. Interest rates had been near zero for close to a decade. And now suddenly you have short-term interest rates at 5%. When interest rates go up that much, and especially with private equity, they start to look for a much quicker return on their investment. And then you also had a general economic slowdown where companies were much more conservative about their marketing budgets, which put a lot of pressure on sponsorship. And so now you have those two factors really starting to take hold in the industry. What you usually will see at this stage of an industry is a lot of consolidation, and we're starting to see that already. Recently, Madison Square Garden sold CLG to NRG. There was news reports yesterday that people are looking at combining potentially with FaZe. So
yes, I saw that.
I think the key thing everyone will be looking for is trying to get scale, and now a real focus on profitability, where before people were focused on growth.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it comes with, the flow of esports and how it's kind of developed over the past few years. And I think it's very important that we kind of talk about Sentinel's role in all of this, right? Because Sentinels, as we know, has been arguably the fastest growing esports organization in North America, beating out the likes of NRG, Cloud9. You're kind of up there in terms of the notoriety, especially in Valorant, right? You've kind of made your name by doing that. And I think it's important that we kind of note that, because a lot of people are quite curious about, what makes Sentinels different to some of these other organizations. So maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about, the history of the organization and kind of where you're going from here.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is if you're a fan of Valorant and that's your primary esport that you're a fan of, right? Yeah. To you, Sentinels has been a brand from the beginning, right? And has been one of the leading brands from the beginning. But, right, we've been in a limited number of different games, and we've only existed as a company since 2018. So, when you look at some of our competitors, they've been around 5, 10, 15 years longer than we have. And they've raised and invested substantially more money than we have as a company, right? Yeah. So we're still at that phase of building our brand. And, when you look at some of the other organizations, and some of the biggest organizations have raised 80, 100, $120 million in their history, right? So what people will see when they look at our filings that are all available through Start Engine, but are filed with the SEC, that from our inception, that we've raised and invested and spent about $25 million. So we've been doing this a lot less time and have invested a lot less money than most of our competitors. So we're still in that phase of investing and building our brand. And so that's a lot of what context that people wouldn't normally really have. And if you look at it over the last 2.5 years, as our Valorant team really gained that popularity, and we then really put the emphasis on putting out a lot more content, building up our staff, taking over our merchandise operation, that we've, over the last 2.5 years, our main Sentinels Twitter, our main Sentinels YouTube channel, they've added more followers and subscribers than any of the other organizations in North America during that time. And so that's something that we've really prioritized, because a big element of where we are competing with the other orgs isn't just competing with them in Valorant, it's also competing with them for sponsorship. And so we had to make sure that we had competitive reach, and that we had as good or better engagement for our content that our competitors do, so that hopefully we become the preferred destination for sponsors who want to invest in esports. And so that's the investment we've been making. And now our hope is, over the next few years, we'll really start to receive the benefits from that investment. The big upside as we look to the future in terms of what our hope is that as game publishers start to offer team-branded content in-game, that if we have one of the most popular brands, that we will get a good return from those sales. So as we look to the long term and the path to profitability, those are really the pieces of what we are looking to. And like I said, that's where fans really have to make that evaluation of how strong is our brand, what do they think the future of our brand can be, and therefore, do we have a realistic path to profitability, right? There'll be a lot of people who look at that and say, oh, that's too risky, I don't want to make that investment now, and that's absolutely fine. Those people are definitely free to go to our store and buy a Sentinels hoodie and jersey and be fans, right? But for people who are looking to invest and like the possibility of what our brand can be, that this is now a unique opportunity where they can be part of it. But like I said, it's a startup, right? We're in an early phase of our development, and therefore that has substantial risk to it. And, people just need to be very well aware of that risk, and that the investment will likely be illiquid for a fair amount of time. But our hope is that by the experiences and the access, that fans will get something that has some value to them no matter what happens with the investment.
Yeah, like you're not like putting money into a void, I guess. It's like you're doing this because, you are such a massive fan of Sentinels, but you are also getting physical items as well, right? You're actually getting benefits, right? There's no kind of, if I just put money into this company, have I just lost all my money in 10 years, or have I gained money in 10 years, whatever it may be. Regardless of that, kind of, on the different pathway, you still get something, like,
no matter what happens, if you invest $1,000, you'll have the jersey and the exclusive owners only jacket that you'll have, no matter what else happens. Now,
no one's gonna come and take it away from you if you're not gonna have bailiffs or whatever at your door, just steal the jacket away from you. So
our hope is that we execute against our plan, that the economy turns around, that sponsors aggressively come back to the space, that we're their first choice or one of their first top choices, that in-game content, that Sentinels fans buy a lot of it, and that the company finds a path to profitability. But like I said, we're early in this process. So people just need to be aware of that. And like I said, if that isn't something people are comfortable, totally appreciate that. That is not who should be invested.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the other things that I saw a lot of people talking about, especially when I saw it, I wasn't really that familiar with Start Engine, especially over in the UK. I mean, there's not really that many crowdfunding platforms. But I think it would probably be best if maybe you could kind of talk a little bit about what Start Engine is and, kind of the benefits of that, just as a company, kind of what makes it a lot easier to use. And then kind of how do people actually go about investing? Like, what's the process there?
Yep. So for anyone who watches Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, who's a key member of the Shark Tank crew, is part of Start Engine. And they've been one of the most successful crowdfunding platforms, especially with early stage, fast growing companies like ourselves. And so they handle a lot of the administrative burden so that we, again, can just be focused on implementing our business plan. And they make sure that we are compliant with SEC filings, and they have a very easy to use interface where investors can go sign up on their platform. They can then go get all the information about our offering, and that's where they will actually subscribe, is through Start Engine. And so they handle all the interface with investors and handle all the transaction. And so as we looked at it, like I said, relative to supporting companies in our stage, they were what we thought was the best platform out there.
And people are able to invest via Start Engine, is that right?
Correct. And so they can invest via credit card or wire transfer.
Gotcha.
All of that is laid out on the website.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for taking the time. I think, that's pretty much answered all of my questions that I have here, and hopefully gives a little bit more insight to the community about what's going on with Sentinels and, the whole reasoning as to why they're doing this. And, hopefully it provides some much needed clarity for stuff like this and, gives a lot of insight. So thank you very much, Rob.